Here we are at another Friday, another end to a week, and another video diary in the week of Hypnotherapist. And the reason I record these is because something I do with many of my clients is to reflect back on the things that have happened to them. Because when you reflect back, you bring in something called hindsight. You have knowledge now that you didn't know when those events happened in the past, and you see them in a different way. And with that learning, you can see things that didn't work well and therefore have different choices when those situations come up in the future. And almost importantly, probably more so importantly, celebrate the successes, because that's something that we often don't do. And those two things together can be really, really strong and powerful ways of building that mental strength, that mental resilience that at times we all need. So it's important to me as an anxiety specialist to practice what I preach. And so this is my reflection on my week. And there's been 3 clients that have particularly stood out for me. One of them was a gentleman who wanted to moderate his alcohol. He didn't want to stop altogether, which is the challenge, because actually getting someone to go back to zero tolerance is relatively easy. And the therapeutic technique that we use here is to understand, does the mind have that skill already? And yes, in his case, it did. He could have 1 biscuit and not eat the whole packet, or a couple of bits of chocolate and not eat the whole bar. So his mind had the ability to say, I can go up to this, but then I won't cross the other side. So the work with him was to say, use that skill now to create a boundary for alcohol beyond which you can go up to and enjoy having a few glasses of wine, a couple of beers, but then you don't go beyond it. And that's working for him really, really powerfully. The second client that really stood out for me was an older lady who came to me because she's just said, Caroline, I'm lost. And when you're feeling lost, that's really anxiety inducing as well, because you don't know who you are at that point, or even more, a way out. And the reason she had got herself into that lost situation is, like many women, she had always put everything else first. The children had always been put first, but they were all adults now. She'd even got grandchildren. But she'd been left in a home environment where her husband was quite domineering, and so she continued to allow him to decide on what they were going to do. And her voice often wasn't heard at all, to the point that she even stopped expressing it. And so the work with her was to start rebuilding her self-esteem. And there's a very simple technique that I encourage a lot of people to use, and that's start using the word I a lot more. I feel this way. I want to do this. Because when we use I, we're subconsciously referencing yourself and the importance of recognizing how you feel, what your wants are, what your needs are. And that just incrementally starts to build that self-esteem up. Recognizing that her husband, other people may not listen, but you can't control other people's behavior. But what you can do is control your behavior, your language, and that expression of your own needs is a really important start. And then the third client was another young lady. I seem to have a series of them at the moment, with mesophobia, which is the fear of germs. And the work that we did this time, she's a little bit into the therapeutic process that we've been following, is to very simply look at recognizing she was looking at the world through a lens. It's almost like metaphorically having a pair of glasses on, where these glasses were focused purely on where there's germs. And understandably, they're pretty much everywhere. And it sounds very simplistic, but it's really, really powerful when in a subconscious state, you can encourage the mind to take those glasses off and just see things through a different lens. So she could start to see that if you did touch something that was particularly dirty, money was her particular issue, you can wash your hands. And bathrooms, not very pleasant places, but you wash your hands afterwards. Germs are around, so pretending they're not isn't going to be accepted by the subconscious mind. But by working on the acknowledgement that most germs are not going to harm you anyway, you've got to be the age that you are and you're still alive, therefore it's okay to live in a world alongside germs, but you can do those little things like washing your hands after touching money, after being in a public toilet space, or some of the other things that she was scared about. And her mind is already going, yeah, actually, I can do this and I'm safe. And when you feel safe and in control, anxiety automatically reduces. So they're three things that for me are really good reminders of how powerful the mind is when you start to use it in a different way. And hopefully, if they're tips and techniques that you can relate to, or maybe issues that you can relate to too, they're things that you can try. And if you would love my help in working with you on resolving those issues, I'd love to hear from you. But for now, I wish you a wonderful weekend, and I will be back next week with my next diary. Take care for now.